Good evening, everybody. Welcome. My name is Christopher Warner, and I am one of the credit counselors here at Money Mentors. And tonight we're going to talk about breaking the cycle, spending less and saving more. And with that, we're going to talk about 5 steps that I think are key to reaching your financial goals. And we're also going to talk about some money saving strategies. And we're going to talk about resources, where you can find out more once you leave this session tonight. So the first thing you have to do is you've got to set a plan. You've got to know what's coming in and where it's going. Find out where your money is at, basically, because it's tough to figure out where you're going next if you don't know where you're starting from. One of the things that we do here in every assessment is we put together a budget spreadsheet that looks much like this. We do want to find out what's coming in. We want to find out where it's going. And we'll also talk about other things, in the plan. We'll talk about the debt and we'll figure out what's happening with the money. So what kind of steps do we need in order to get a good plan going? Well, there's a few things that we have to do, and they look like this. So we're going to go through these 5 steps. We're going to go through them one by one because these are the things that I think are essential to any good plan in order to get the most out of your money and to get control of it rather than it controlling you. So step 1, we want an emergency fund. How big that emergency fund is going to be up to you. I want you to think about things that are important or that you know might happen to you. Car repairs, home repairs. Maybe you have many relatives who aren't here in Alberta that you might have to travel if somebody was sick. So these are the kind of things that you want to think about, that you want to be prepared for, so that if these eventualities happen, this is where you're going to be able to find that money. And you want to do this plan in a way that hopefully you can tuck away enough that at least you can address it quickly, that you're not tapping into things like payday loans and lines of credit and all those kind of things that are going to end up costing you money later after the situation has resolved itself. For this money, try not to tie it up. So don't put it into mutual funds, despite what some financial advisor might tell you. Don't put it into something that you can't access quickly. Once you've got that emergency plan in place, the next thing is let's start tackling some of the high interest debt. Because just as much as saving money, paying down debt is going to save a lot of money. Nowadays, as I'm sure most of you are aware, savings accounts and even some tax-free savings accounts with the banks and that, they're only giving 1%, 1.5%, maybe 2%. But if you're paying out 19% on a credit card, that math doesn't quite line up. So that would be a place where I would rather pay down the credit card with that money that I've got rather than trying to save it in the bank. And one of the ways that we tackle that is rolling down the debt. Rolling down the debt is actually quite a straightforward strategy. And I'll give you an example. If you've got 5 credit cards and each of them has a $1,000 balance on it, and those minimum payments on each card are $50. So you've got the 5, each with a minimum of $50. There's a $250 minimum payments. Rolling down the debt, what you do is you structure your budget in such a way that you find the money for all those minimums, and you find an extra $50 or $100, whatever you can manage. You take that money and you pay everybody their minimums every month, and you pay that one card that extra $50. And you keep doing it until that card is gone. And then as soon as that card is gone, you take that whole $100 and you slide it over to the next card. So now you've got $150 going to that card. And you just keep doing it until it's gone. And you just keep repeating that process until you get to that last one. By the time you get to that last one, you're now putting $300 against that whole card. And that balance disappears lightning fast. Some people ask me, do you tackle the one with the highest interest first? Or do you tackle the one with the highest balance first? It depends. Definitely the math would suggest that you tackle the one with the highest interest. But I'm actually, because I like that to-do list thought process, I actually like tackling the one with the smallest balance because it comes off that list the fastest. Once we've started those couple of things, now we need to get a bigger emergency fund in place. This emergency fund is different. This one's not for those car repairs and those kind of things. This one is for the bigger problems that might come up, like job loss. When that happens, you want to have something to fall back on. So what you want to do is try to save up enough money so that you've got all of your monthly expenses covered for 3 to 6 months. So this brings in two things. You want to do that budget spreadsheet so that you can find out what your monthly expenses look like. So if your monthly expenses are $2,000, for instance, now you know you need $2,000 a month to live on. Well, if you want to save 3 to 6 months, now you need anywhere from $6,000 to $12,000 in that emergency fund. So then the question that I've been asked is, how do I know how much of that I want? So the answer that I have for that is, it depends. It depends on a couple of things. How confident are you that you can bounce back if you lose your job tomorrow? If you're in an industry or you're working in a field that you figure that if I lose this job today, I can jump into something within a week or two, great. So let's talk about where to save the money. One of the easiest places for an emergency fund to be put is in a tax-free savings account. A tax-free savings account is a great place to save money for two reasons. One, whatever happens inside of that account, you don't have to pay tax on. Two, it's easily accessible money in the sense that you can cash it out at pretty much any time, probably within about 1 or 2 days' notice, and you don't pay tax, just like the title says. And the government really only cares about two things. They only care how much money goes into the account and how much money comes out of the account. And the only reason they actually care about what comes out is because you get to put it back. And you can put it back, but not in the same calendar year. So once we've got our small emergency fund going, once we've got the debt under control, we've started paying down, or maybe we've addressed it all by now, and we've got that other emergency fund going, now we can start thinking further ahead. That's when we start looking at retirement. I'm actually a really big fan of trying to set your budget up or your spending plan up in a way that you can find even 25 bucks a month to start saving for retirement while you're addressing those other things. Now I realize that might go against what I said to you earlier about, don't be saving while you're paying down debt. But the reason I'm starting with just $25 is I want you to create the habit. I want you to create the habit of saving so that later, when things are feeling better, you've addressed your debt, you've got more money available, this and that, or you get raises at work, or you get a new job, however these things work, you can start to build up. Because when you start it, the $25 that you're putting away, you might notice it initially, the first couple of paychecks, that it's gone. But eventually you learn the new normal. And then an education savings plan. Now I like that this one is last in the 5 steps, and the reason I like that it's last for two things. A, it doesn't apply to everybody. I don't have kids, so I don't, and I have a lot of nieces and nephews who I adore and I want to take care of, and I want to make sure that they're in good stead, but the government won't allow me to open up a tax or an RESP for them because only parents and grandparents can actually open the plans up. The other reason that I like that this slide is last is because I want you to make sure that you're in good shape financially before worrying about your kids' education. It's all well and good that we've got these 5 goals, but we have to find the money. We've got to find money to get things moving. And this is why we've got the next few slides here to talk about some habits that you can hopefully create in order to find that money in your budget if you don't already have it there. The first of our habits, track your spending. This one comes up quite a bit actually when I have sessions in the office here when we do the spending plan or the budget. So number 2, automate your savings. Automate your savings. Again, this goes back to that thing I was talking about creating the habit. That $25 a month, ask your employer if they can take it off your paycheck for you and put it into something. Or ask your bank to set up a pre-authorized debit for whatever the amount is that you can spare every month. Comparison shopping. I would say the bigger the item, the more you should compare. So if you're buying a coffee, you probably don't have to compare. You already know which taste you like and you already know which store you like and that sort of thing. But if you're buying a car, comparison shopping can save you thousands of dollars. Spending triggers. Who can give me some examples of spending triggers? Stress. Yeah, stress is a great one. Some people shop when they're happy. Some people shop when they're bored. Some people shop when they're sad or angry. Whatever your trigger is, try to identify it. Try to find ways to avoid it. Consider used. Kijiji is a wonderful tool. Absolutely. I know a number of people who like to shop at Value Village. But the biggest place for considering used is when you're buying a car. Because There's a general rule of thumb that says that a car loses 30% of its value when it drives off the lot. So if that's true, and you're looking at a car that's worth $20,000, the moment it comes off the lot, it's now worth $14,000. So if you can wait a year for that car, somebody will trade it in. Somebody will buy it, somebody will take that depreciation, and somebody will trade it in. And you can buy it 1 year later, probably for about $12,000 or $14,000. Saving windfall income. If you get a raise, or you get a bonus, or you get a family inheritance, or something like that, you know, it says to save it. When it comes to things like bonuses at work, I'm a big fan of taking that bonus and splitting it into 3. Okay? I want you to put some of it toward your debt. I recommend putting some of it into longer term savings. And the third part, go play. You've earned that money. If you get a bonus from work, it's yours. You earned it, so use it. Yeah, a waiting period. Again, this one goes back to the trigger thing. If you are an impulse shopper, I used to be one, and so I had to adopt something where it's like, no, I'm gonna think about that for a day. I'm gonna go home, I'm gonna sleep on it, I'm gonna come back to it. If I still want it tomorrow just as badly, then I'll think about it. As long as it still fits in with my plan. And then calculating what an item costs in hours worked. So if you're looking at an item that costs $200 and you're making 20 bucks an hour, you gotta work 10 hours to get that item. And the last one is to be content with what we have. It's a bit of a judgment call. Not everybody is. Some people like to have the latest and the greatest. If you're gonna upgrade to the next thing, well, at least sell off the old one and try to get, you know, some of your money back. Reducing your expenses to find money to save. Everything that we've talked about, and I'm going to go back to the very beginning in the sense of on that plan, it all comes down to balance, because you want to have a balance between, I mean, what you need to do, of course, and what you want to do, and you can spend your money however you want, as long as it works. One of the greatest things that you can do for yourself is to educate yourself. Money Sense, it's a fabulous magazine, although to cut your costs, go to their website. It's very straightforward, it's very easy language. They don't use a lot of jargon. The business section of the newspapers and the banks. You know, the banks, they've all got calculators for car payments, mortgage payments. When you're setting goals, try to use the acronym SMART, make them SMART goals. Just a little recap of what we were doing. So we talked about 5 things that we think are essential to any good plan, some habits to try to create, talked about some resources on where to find some of the tools that you can use to strengthen your own financial position. So I do want to thank you all for coming tonight. Our next seminar is actually going to be in June, and we're going to do Enrich Your Kids. Okay, a little bit of strategy for the kids and how to get them started, how to get them going on a good road.